Welcome to the debut episode of Across the State here in the PIAA Radio Network. I'm your host, Eric Thomas. Every Wednesday night, right up until the state championships coming up later this year in December, we'll be with you to break it down across the state of Pennsylvania. Our goal each week is to have a coach from some side of the state, a media member, a broadcaster, somebody who covers high school football to come on and join us on this weekly journey as we make our way to Cumberland Valley High School in Mechanicsburg the second week in December here in 2026. Our second go at the PIAA Football Championships. Our producer, James Dotson, he worked with us last year at the football finals. He's with me here tonight in studio. Sir, thanks for running the ones and twos.
And the threes and fours, absolutely. I came,
right.
Well, one at a time. That's what the teams are going to be saying. Coaches are going to be saying one day at a time.
One day at a time.
One broadcast at a time. We're off and running.
So here's the deal with this show. Before we get into the guts of the show here tonight, I just want to let everybody know the way this is going to work now every week. Again, we're going to have a coach and a player, or a coach and a media member on each week as we do our show. It's going to air every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. here in the PIAA Radio Network, live on the YouTube channel. If you're a station out there listening, you want to have this on your radio station, lead into your high school football coverage on Friday, let us know. You can shoot me an email at byericthomas@gmail.com. That's byericthomas@gmail.com. Ask me about it. We'll tell you how to get it downloaded for your station. We do have it broken up into segments. You can run it. You can put your own inventory behind it. However you want to do it. If you want to put it as part of your high school football coverage, feel free to go ahead and do so. Just let us know, and we will get you set up with all the links and information that you need for it. And again, this is going to go right up to the state finals in December. The only week we won't be on a Wednesday will be the week of Thanksgiving. We'll air the show live on Tuesday that week because we know everybody's busy the night before and traveling, and nobody wants to listen to a live radio show Wednesday night while they're driving across the state or stuck in an airport. But yeah, that'll be the only week we don't do a Wednesday night episode. And then the week after the state finals, we'll do one final show, kind of bring some guys back, talk about all state, kind of put a bow on the whole season. And then in December, we'll have all 6 of the state football finals for you coming up from Cumberland Valley High School. December 10th, they begin, and then go across the 11th and 12th. Bob McCool is back for a second year on the radio network, and we'll have some more info as to who's working with us on those games coming up in the next few weeks. So for our first show here tonight, we are going to talk to Roman Catholic head coach Rick Preet. Now, we did record this interview on Tuesday morning. Rick and Roman Catholic are going to be getting on a plane tomorrow morning. They're headed out to California. They're going to play John Bosco Prep on Friday night. You can watch that game live on the NFHS network. It's 10 p.m. Eastern time. So it'll be 7 o'clock our time, and he will talk about all the logistics behind the trip and everything. And, of course, they are the reigning 5A state champs. They won't be able to defend it because they're in 6A. And we talked to him about that a little bit. And then coming up in our second half hour tonight, we'll talk to Eric Epler from PennLive.com. He who puts together the state rankings for PennLive.com and the Harrisburg Patriot News. Quick review of last season, too. I mean, we got to talk about it. We had a lot of success for the state football finals. We had a lot of listeners. We had a couple radio stations that carried at least 2 of the games. We're grateful for that. Basketball, we had a successful run for the basketball finals. We had a successful run for baseball and softball, which all kind of was thrown together at the last minute. Really. So that all worked out, and we're happy to be back with you for our second full season. And some things may be added down the line. We don't know yet. A lot of people want it. Wrestling. Yep. You know, I don't know if we could add wrestling to this or not, but, you know, I've had a lot of people inquire about that, and it's something we'll think about and maybe do. Definitely not this year, but maybe somewhere down the line. We'll have to see what the logistics all work. But it's great to be back for a second year of this, and hopefully we can improve upon it. We obviously want everybody to listen to this show. We know that you can then tune into our coverage of the state finals, and this will be a vehicle to kind of run hand in hand with that coverage of the state finals. So with that said, let's talk to Rick Preet, the head coach of Roman Catholic. This is going to be 2 segments, about 20 minutes. And again, we did record this yesterday because they're traveling out to California early tomorrow morning. They're getting up at 4 in the morning. They're heading to Philly Airport. They're getting on a early flight, going to go through some walkthrough tomorrow. He'll tell you all about that. It was a great interview. Rick's a great guy. He's a good friend of mine. I've gotten to know him the last couple of years, and I'm grateful for that. He is truly one of the good guys in coaching here in the state of Pennsylvania. And he was a no-brainer, if you ask me, for our first guest. So without further ado, let's listen in on our conversation with Roman Catholic head coach Rick Preet, recorded earlier this week. So our first guest on this weekly show here on the PIAA Radio Network is Roman Catholic head coach Rick Preet. Coach, thanks for taking some time here tonight to join us. I know you're busy this week with some travel plans and the season kicking off, but just give me your thoughts on the season ahead for. You're the defending 5A champs, but you won't get a chance to defend that title this year because you're now in 6A.
Yeah, Eric, thanks for having me. It's a new year, new challenge, and this whole off season has been establishing with our kids that last year's business. So we're on to new business and a new challenge ahead. So we're excited.
What are your thoughts on jumping up to 6A? Because I know, the last couple of years you've been in 5A. You've played in both 5A state titles the last 2 years. And now you jump into, 5A is a big enough class as it is and maybe the most balanced in the entire state. But now you jump into the classifications, with the LaSalle's and the St. Joe's Preps, who I know you're familiar with. But your championship game mate McDevitt jumps up too. And now you get a whole different path to the state finals, a different route. Maybe you got Harrisburg maybe in a final, maybe you get McDevitt in a final again. There's all kinds of possibilities. What were your thoughts when you first heard about 6A, and your thoughts now that 6A is in front of you?
Yeah, so obviously the PCL Red, the division we're in, is I believe the best league in the country, one of the best leagues in the country. So we have some really great programs that we have to compete with, in the regular season just for the right to advance to the postseason. So our focus, it actually helps us from a mindset standpoint of just focusing on the task at hand, which is our league. I feel like once we, whoever is able to get out of our league will be battle tested and be ready for anything that's in front of them. So, I think there's really, really good programs. You mentioned the balance in 5A. I believe that to be legitimate, and 6A has really good programs as well. But we're not really too much concerned with what else is out there when we have such elite competition in front of us in our own league.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the league here before we jump into your team specifically, because a lot of questions I think going into the season this year. St. Joe's Prep last year is 5-5, and they sort of fell off. LaSalle beat them to get through the Catholic League. You had LaSalle who won the 6A title. Size up the league as a whole. I mean, Bonner is going to be the favorite in 4A this year. So the Catholic League should be anyway, well represented in the state finals again. But the three of you in that red division, only one of you is going to be able to get there. Can you size up the league, or is it a little too early? Obviously, it's week 1, but is it a little too early to maybe think about what this league is going to be like as a whole come the end of October?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so I would say there's enough of a track record for me to be able to kind of provide an answer on this. And so the thought process that, St. Joe's Prep has fallen off, or they fell off. I mean, I know Tim Roken and what them guys are doing over there. They're amazing. So, when you're playing elite non-league competition, some things don't go right, throughout the season. It can get that way, but I fully expect them guys to start to get that back on track, and for them to be as formidable as they have been, over the last, 20 years, So, and then, obviously, since Brett has taken over at LaSalle, he's just been tremendous, and they're an amazing team. So, you have those teams that are 6A, and then with Coach Nace at Father Judge, he's going into year 2, so he's going to start to get that thing rolling. Going down to the other teams, Mike Ewing at O'Hara, fantastic coach. His team is going to be really good. And then Jack and those guys at Bonner, they should be favorites. They are a really, really well-coached program with tough kids. And, I just think the league is in good shape overall, and the way we have to beat up on each other, from the outside looking in, it can, a team could have a down year, record-wise, but still very formidable.
When you won that state title last year, you've had some time now to go back and reflect on that. And I know it's been, a roller coaster couple years for you on and off the field, but you won that title last year. You beat the team that beat you the year before. When you stepped back away from that and reflected on finally getting over that mountain and getting that title, what did that whole process, what did that whole run, last year with that team, which was really special, what did that run end up meaning to you when you were able to look back at it now?
It's like, we work so hard. I think I told you this before, and it's not a cliche. It's not coach speak. We have been just kind of like, emptying the tank for years, and just preaching to our kids like, hard work will pay off, and to see that group kind of, do it right, get it done after the year before. Like, we really felt good the year before too, and just kind of had to explain to them, like, things don't always go the way you want them to. We were really down the year before, kind of hanging our heads a little bit, and so to come back the next year and to get over get over the mountain, so to speak, was big, because all those guys, those seniors, I mean, for years they just put work in, and we knew we were close, so it was kind of validating, and it was like just like a huge sigh of relief more than anything. And I'll always take away from that moment that our school and all of our alumni and everybody that's been a part of our program, that's our first state title, and we're at a school that people didn't think could do it. And we got it done.
We're talking to Roman Catholic head coach Rick Preet here on the PIAA Week 1 preview show on the PIAA Radio Network. We're going to take time for a quick break. When we get back, segment 2 with Coach Preet. You're listening to Across the State here on the PIAA Radio Network.
If you think you can make the calls, become a PIAA official. Make some extra cash, stay in shape, and enjoy interscholastic sports, all while making a difference in your community. Head to PIAA.org for more information. The PIAA Radio Network is brought to you by Wayne Bank, your hometown bank proudly serving communities across Pennsylvania for more than 150 years.
When I was first offered opioids, it was a no-brainer. They could get me back to doing what I loved. I knew the risks of addiction, but I didn't know it would affect me. First, it was the drowsiness, then muscle aches, and then vomiting.
Even though I wasn't prescribed opioids, I thought they would help me get in control of the stresses in my life. I didn't realize how quickly they would take control of my life.
Don't let pain be a killer.
We're back here on Across the State. Eric Thomas, Rick Preet, the head coach of Roman Catholic, the defending 5A champs. They're now up in 6A this season. I want to go back to a conversation you and I had in December when we were getting ready for the 5A final last year. And you had told me quietly, that your goal was to build this program into a nationally recognized program, like St. Joe's Prep has kind of put the blueprint out there. Well, you're going to get a chance to do that now when you travel out to California. Take listeners inside a little bit how that all kind of happened, and your matchup coming up in Week 1, what it means to take the program on a big stage, and just kind of how that all came about for you.
Yeah, so the first thing that we want to do for our kids is provide, elite experiences at Roman Catholic. We want them to remember their time with us. And then we have a saying or a motto where we want to compete with and against the best. So, we were presented this game from a third party. And obviously they let us know that St. John Bosco was having a rough time finding an opponent. And, we felt like taking a bunch of kids from Philadelphia, from the East Coast to California was a great opportunity for us, to build those experiences and memories, and really to, the biggest thing with this is to get another view of how it's done. this will be we'll learn from this game, win, lose, or draw. No matter what happens in this matchup, we're gonna learn, and it'll be a great benefit for us moving forward. I've never been one to worry about the overall win-loss record, or what people are going to say about us, if things don't go well. The only thing I care about is our kids getting elite exposure. So, I know that all the West Coast schools will be tapped into this matchup, and hopefully that opens opportunities for some of our kids that can play at those power levels. And then after this experience, we'll follow that up with probably the best team in North Jersey or in all of New Jersey, in Don Bosco, and then our familiar foe, our yearly opponent, DeMatha Catholic. So, but that's kind of on par with kind of who we want to be. And I think we'll come out of that, battle tested, and we'll be better for it.
This game against Bosco is going to be televised, correct?
I believe it's going to be NFHS.
Okay, so everybody will be able to watch it. You'll just have to go on the NFHS network to catch that. Highly implore everybody to go watch that. You can subscribe to the NFHS network, NFHSnetwork.com. You can do monthly, yearly, however you want to, but that game, you're not going to want to miss that. So walk us through like the logistics of doing all this. We're recording this interview on Tuesday morning, so you're going to be in the air or on the way out there by the time this airs live, maybe. But what are some of the logistics in getting everybody ready and getting on the plane and flying out there? When do you leave? Are you going to have a practice out there? What are some of the things you have mapped out for this trip?
Sure. So, we will we'll have practice here in a little bit today. And then, hopefully everybody's all packed and ready to go, because we'll start showing up to the school tomorrow around 4 a.m. or quarter to 4. Load the buses. The buses will take us to the airport. Our flight is at 7, so we'll get there around 5 a.m. Get through security. Plenty of time to kind of rest on the flight. It's I think about a 5.5 hour flight. And then once we get out there, I'm just going to hit the ground running, not allow for any of the jet lag or anything to kind of set in. So we'll go straight to our hotel, check in, we'll eat, and then we will head to Bosco for practice. So they've been very helpful in providing their resources to us. So we'll get our normal routine. We'll practice. We'll get our lift in, and then we'll have meetings and such at the hotel. So the next day kind of looks similar. They do have there's like a 3-hour window where we're going to let them go to the beach and kind of hang out. But
you have to.
Yeah. So they're going to go to Long Beach and enjoy the beach. We had visits and practice set up at UCLA and USC, but was later notified that it's a dead period, so we can't get on campus, which was a little disappointing, but no problem. So we're going to get to the beach and let them have that time, come back, eat, practice, meetings, etc. The one thing that we're going to do to try to acclimate is practice around 7 p.m. their time, so we can kind of catch up. And then on game day, we'll go to mass with them at their school, just to kind of reinforce the values of each school. And Friday night will be the game. Then we have an afternoon flight on Saturday that'll get us home a little late.
So your game is going to take place. It'll be 10 o'clock Eastern time, 7 o'clock their time in California.
Correct.
So that's, you practice 7 o'clock their time, which will be 10 body clock wise back here, and that'll get you acclimated with it. I like that setup a lot. Let's go through your team a little bit. First of all, you guys scrimmage Imhotep on Saturday morning. Had a chance to watch a little bit of the highlights of that. Looked pretty entertaining. I think a lot of people are going to look at teams in the Catholic League, and yours included, and say, well, they lost X, Y, and Z player. Your team is still going to be pretty well off from what I could tell from watching some of those highlights. Take us through the team a little bit. Tell us about some of the guys that are filling those holes, specifically a quarterback. We know that's the most important position, but are some of the names that have been stepping up in the preseason, and who should we watch out for on your team this year?
Sure. So, I mean, one of the things that we noticed, we have a lot of returning starters. The guys that we lost, are significant losses. There's no doubt about that. But we felt we had a really, really good core group coming back. So in the back half of our defense, Hamir Lowry, Sabir Dawson, Chase Stanton, and Andrew Woods are all guys that have started games for us. We have Walt Hudson at middle linebacker, who's going to be playing at Pitt next year. Austin Wright is back at defensive end, who's going to Eastern Michigan. And then we have Jalen Goodwin, the nose tackle that started for us last year. And we have a new guy, Victor Izuku, who 6'5", 240, really, really electric off the edge. So we feel really good defensively. And then on the offensive side of the ball, obviously starting with our quarterback, Jamil Hawkins, just a ton of confidence in him from the sort of the type of competitor he is. I mean, he's a Philly kid through and through. He's as tough as it gets, and our biggest thing is to support him in every way possible. I think he has a really good offensive line in front of him. We have J.J. Lanos back, who was a starter for us and got hurt in the DeMatha game. Malik Cochran is a 3-year starter for us. Sebastian Waddell is a 3-year starter for us. So we feel really good up front on the offensive line. And then our skill guys are kind of, up to par with where we've been over the years. Issa Neely's back. Jaden Alford is back. So our receiving core is really good. We have some new additions. Kareem Hawk has come in from Imhotep, and he's just a tremendous young man, tremendous player. And our backfield is really, really solid, starting with Trey Montgomery. So we feel really good about our team. We know it's going to be a different team, and I think it's going to take us time to kind of find out who we are. But super confident in our guys. So that's kind of where we are.
What's easier for you? Was it easier pitching to the team last year to get back there and try to win a title, or is it easier to maintain it once you win it? What compare going into last year to going into this year, where last year you're still hunting for it, this year you have it, and everybody's hunting for you. Which side is easier? Which side is more difficult?
I don't know that we're dealing with that, Eric, because I feel like last year's team, when they were focused on that particular mission, nothing much really had to be said. That was the goal. That was, kind of what it was going to be. And I think going into this year, I think there's just kind of a standard in place where our kids are just kind of focused on playing one game at a time and playing the best competition. Like, they are really excited to play against the best competition out there. And, I think they're just kind of focused on our culture and our standard of, game by game, and, let's go see what we can put together. 1-0 every week. And I know that's very cliche, but we have to have that mindset. We can't look ahead on anything. So they know that last year's team is last year's team. This is a completely different year. And, based off of what they were able to accomplish last year, we want to try to elevate. So this team knows that we're trying to go to a new height.
What was your scrimmage like with Imhotep? Can you was that a good gauge for where this team is at? Imhotep drops down to 5A this year. A lot of people think they're going to make a run towards the state title, maybe collide with Pine Richland at somewhere down the line. But what did you get out of that scrimmage with Imhotep? And that's obviously a pretty good, barometer when you're headed into, I know you're headed into non-conference and all that, but a lot of people wanted to see that matchup in 6A anyway, or 5A, depending on how the cycle shook out. But you guys were able to do it in the scrimmage. Was that a good gauge for where you're at?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Coach Dev Johnson and them guys, really, really phenomenal program. I thought it was a really physical scrimmage. I thought obviously both teams kept things under wraps, as far as scheme, what we were going to show. But I thought both sides, both programs were flying around out there. It was really just really great work. I thought it was a great day for the city of Philadelphia. I mean, it was a great crowd out there. And the kids all get along with each other. They all know each other. It was really competitive. It was exciting. And I left that scrimmage really satisfied with kind of where we are, and just to speak to them, I think they're going to do phenomenal things this season.
Last thing I'll ask you here before we let you go, as a head coach, you get your title last year. You've put this program, football. A lot of people think Roman Catholic, they think basketball, and rightfully so. It's been a powerhouse in basketball for years, for centuries. But you've now taken this football program and put it on a different level. What keeps Rick Preet hungry every single week that you go out there to practice, to play a game, to watch film, whatever it is? What keeps you motivated and what keeps you going to keep this program on the top?
I really want to serve young people and help them, be great, reach their goals. I always had a passion for building, from the ground up. And, this is such a collective effort that there's so much more than one person and that goes into this. I mean, our coaches, our parents, our school, everything that's involved with this has got us to the point where, we're trying to keep pursuing new endeavors and keep being great. But, the main thing is just about watching young people come in, work hard, go to college, become great fathers, great husbands. That's really something that has just been a thing for me, Eric. I just, I'm excited to help people be great.
All right, Rick Preet, the head coach of Roman Catholic. Coach, have a great trip, safe travels. Hope everything works out well there. And again, you can watch that game on the NFHS Network on Friday night. It's going to be 10 o'clock Eastern against St. John Bosco out in California. Roman Catholic leaves to go out there and take on one of the signature names in high school football in the state of Pennsylvania. Coach, we really appreciate you taking some time, and good luck to you, and hopefully we'll talk to you down the line and maybe again in December.
Eric, thanks so much.
So there is Rick Preet, the head coach of Roman Catholic. We appreciate him taking some time before they get on the plane tomorrow morning. Head out to California to take on St. John Bosco. Again, that game's live on the NFHS Network tomorrow night, or rather Friday night, at 10 o'clock Eastern time. Reminder to get your players, coaches, cheerleaders, band members, and fans seen on the PIAA scene. Use the hashtag PIAA scene along with your post. Leave a brief description of the play, milestone, or achievement, highlighting the positive stories that happened throughout the season in interscholastic athletics across the Commonwealth. That's the PIAA scene, hashtag PIAA scene. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, Eric Epler of PennLive.com. He is going to be by to talk about the season to come and his first edition of the Pennsylvania High School Football State Rankings. That comes your way next on Across the State here on the PIAA Radio Network.
When you're growing something, building something, planning something, dreaming something. At Wayne Bank, we're passionate about helping you create a future that's rich in possibility. Since 1871, we've worked together to serve our friends, neighbors, and communities by making every day brighter, every day bolder, every day better. Wayne Bank, every day better.
The Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasters and the PIAA, two community-focused organizations, are proud to be collaborating to provide Pennsylvanians free access to local high school sports broadcasts. To follow your schools, check your local TV and radio stations for coverage. Through the PAB and PIAA partnership, following Pennsylvania student athletes has never been easier. For PIAA playoff and state championship tickets, head to PIAA.org.
The effects of opioid abuse can mentally and physically weigh you down. By participating in a high-contact sport, you are 50% more likely to use opioids recreationally. At first, you think you can manage your addiction and function normally. But eventually, the burden becomes too much to handle. Don't let pain become a killer.
Welcome back to the PIAA Radio Networks across the state. Eric Thomas with you here tonight. Our first episode of what's going to be, I guess, 16 weeks?
That sounds right. The math checks out.
16 weeks of across the state, taking you across the state of Pennsylvania. Big thanks again to Rick Preet, the head coach of Roman Catholic. Good luck to them on their cross-country trip to take on John Bosco Prep. And a guy who had his eye on Roman Catholic and has put them in his initial 2026 Pennsylvania top 10 in 6A, the one and only Mr. Eric Epler from PennLive.com. Ep, how are you tonight?
Gentlemen, how we doing? I'm doing all right. Closing in now, hours away, so that's always a good thing. I always say the toughest part for us is getting to the season. And then once the train starts moving, and it's actually a lot of fun. Getting to that point is the rather difficult part of my job and my colleagues' job. So yeah, it's here. I can't wait for Friday night.
I was really intrigued. You send these out to a bunch of us on Monday nights. We get a little sneak peek of it, and so that way papers have it for Tuesday morning and all that. I was really intrigued to see your first edition of these for two reasons. One, I wanted to see where you had Central Catholic. You have them number one in the state in 6A. I wanted to see where you had LaSalle, the team who beat Central Catholic last year for the 6A title. Basically, I wanted to see your 6A rankings because they are about as interesting as it gets this year with Roman Catholic and Bishop McDevitt up. And just listen, I've seen you do this. You and I have known each other going on 20 plus years now, but I've seen you and Rod Frisco before you and Andy Shea and all those guys like work on these things and how you do it and how you monitor everything. But just take everybody inside how different the 6A ones were this year because you've got to add teams. You know, maybe you're not having the defending champ as your preseason number one. What went into putting at least the 6A ones together?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the riddle, right? I mean, obviously with these teams moving up and two powerhouse teams in McDevitt and Roman Catholic, and then you've got the dip down from Imhotep Charter. So you're taking a power out of the equation and putting two in. And we'll talk about probably the other ones in the other classifications too, as far as movement, but that's really the mystery. And no one, I don't have a crystal ball. I mean, I rely a lot on what I see. I rely a lot on the information that I collect from writers around the state, on who's going to be good. And, in today's day and age, there's a lot of movement player wise as well. It's not quite as bad as the transfer portal in college football, but it's slowly creeping in where we see a lot of movement at the high school ranks now. I mean, I'm putting together a transfer list just for District 3. And I think I'm already at like 30 names, something like that. And I'm not even complete with it yet. It'll go up in the morning, actually. So yeah, you try to evaluate all those things. You take everything into account. The eye test obviously is the number one priority. And you sort of start taking notes at the end of the 2025 season. You get to see a lot of these teams during the playoff run, and you start to mark down who's coming back, who could be potentially back, and then you check to see if they're actually there or they've moved on to somewhere else. And then you just start sort of piecing together the pecking order. And, for me, you mentioned Pittsburgh Central Catholic, and, I mean, I can't recall – and again, I know LaSalle College beat them in the championship game last year, but that was an exceptional – football team with probably 4 to 5 of the best sort of gamers and athletes that we've ever seen. Joey O'Brien, obviously, topping that list. So that's an exception for them. But Pittsburgh Central Catholic was right there. And I can't recall in all of my 92 years of journalism doing this gig, seeing an Ohio State, a Notre Dame, and a Penn State recruit all along the same line of scrimmage. And the girth up front and just the ability up front to start is just massive for PCC. And that's, I mean, I think if you're going to sort of, strictly go on personnel returning, I think you have to give PCC the nod preseason. Obviously, we'll play it out over 16 weeks and find out if that holds true. But that line is massive, and I love programs that are built from the inside out. And there's certainly so many good guys running around for the Vikings too. I mean, Roman Thompson's one of my favorite players, just because I don't care if you put him in there to punt, he's going to do a hell of a job for you. Nick Karing is another kid for PCC. So just all those things factored in, I thought, Harrisburg is still a contender. Obviously in District 3, they've won it now 5 years in a row. So they show up in the state semifinal. So I think they belong at that 4 spot. And then it's sort of, 1-2 with LaSalle and St. Joe's Prep. So I think those were I think it was a pretty easy ranking 1 through 4. And then it gets really interesting after that.
Yeah, you have last year's 2-5A finalists in Roman Catholic and McDevitt. You have them 2 apart. You have Roman Catholic 7th, McDevitt 9th. I'm fascinated by this 6A thing this year because out of LaSalle, St. Joe's Prep, Roman Catholic, only one of them is going to make it. And then on the western side, only one of Central Catholic, Harrisburg, McDevitt. I mean, assuming that those 3 are the 3 that are there at the end are going to make it. You throw in Parkland or, whoever's coming out of like District 11 or whoever comes out of District 1, maybe Coatesville can give somebody a run. I honestly think the team that's really interesting, and you mentioned transfers, is Wilson because of Justice Hardy.
Yeah. Wilson was a team we considered, to throw in there late in the rankings, but I thought Coatesville had enough coming back that they deserved that nod for the 10th spot. Everyone knows about Heller, obviously, being a top recruit in the state at Coatesville. But Wilson is an interesting squad here with Justice Hardy coming over. And it's a team too. And the reason I didn't enjoy putting them in the teams to watch, they were right on the fence there at top 10, is because I always love the way Wilson plays defense. It's always sticky trying to drive the football on Wilson. I mean, you may pop a big play here and there, but the hallmark of that program is defense, and having Hardy there too just makes it, that much better. And I just think it's going to be very, very difficult. I think there's going to be a lot of muddy. If you have the personnel to kind of match up with Wilson, I think you're going to have to win a 14-7 game or a 10-7 game, something like that, because they're not going to give you much. So that in itself wins a lot of football games. As well as I do. That wins a lot of football games. And it can get you to a district final. So I do think, though, between Central York and Harrisburg, those are your 2 best in District 3. I would put Bishop McDevitt right there with them, and then Wilson would be the 4th option. So a lot depends on how the District 3 power rankings, which some people love them, some people hate them, how it sets up the 6A bracket in District 3, in our neck of the woods. It could be a situation where Central and Harrisburg play in the semifinals. So, you may have a team like McDevitt swoop in, or a team like Wilson swoop in, and make it to that district final. And of course, we all know that puts you right in the state semis if you win that game. It's going to be a fun, and for us, it's going to be fun because I think those are the clear-cut 4 favorites.
It's not a very deep 6A class in your neck of the woods, my old neck of the woods, District 3. But overall, I think those 2 popping up to 6A, Roman and McDevitt, I think that just makes that pool a lot deeper. I think 6A is the comp formula finally worked for 6A, and I think it's as good as it's been since they've gone to 6 classifications this season.
Yeah, and you mentioned Roman too. I mean, Roman's all about surviving, and kind of making it in healthy. I mean, if they do that, if you recall, I mean, it had 12-3 year, which is spectacular. But when you're going against a couple hammers there in the middle of the season, it takes a lot out of you. So once you get to the playoffs, if you can have that full head of steam, and Roman just took that with them now, and obviously it was a 5A class, which was sort of the Wild West last year. This year I think that might be 4A, to be honest with you.
I think you're right.
But so having that sort of momentum is really key. I mean, that's a huge task to ask for Roman to come out of District 12, to kind of make it in. But I wouldn't put it past them. I mean, you talk to Coach Preet, and he does a tremendous job. He's one of the best coaches in the state, hands down. And he's a guy who gets max effort out of those kids. You know what I mean? And they're more disciplined than everybody gives them credit for. And I think that's the testament to the coaching, and that carries you a long way. That can run you pretty deep into playoffs.
Eric Epler from PennLive.com joining us right now, talking about the first edition of the 2026 PIAA high school football preseason rankings. Let's go down to 5A real quick. I don't think it's any question. Everybody that you talk to in the high school football circles has Pine Richland, Imhotep circled as your 5A title game. Imhotep drops down from 6 down to 5. Pine Richland is loaded once again. They're the favorites in the WPIL. Maybe Upper St. Clair can push them in a final. I don't know that Imhotep's going to get any resistance when they get into their district play. Is there anybody that we should look at and think that might be able to get by either one of those? Is Southern Lehigh going to be good again? Twin Valley, last year there was a great state final last year. Ruston has had pretty good years the last couple of years. Hollidaysburg sort of came out of nowhere and won 13-1 a season ago. Can any of these teams push either one of those two aside?
Speechless.
Yeah, I think we might have lost step there for a second. It happens.
Welcome to technology. We'll try to get Eric back in here, but this Eric Thomas, I'll tell you this. Just jumping the gun a little bit as we wait to hear his answer from Class 5A. I'm intrigued with Class 4A. 5 of his top 6 were not ranked at the end of last year,
right?
And 7, I think it's 6 of the top 10 were the same way. I'm definitely going to be asking him about that. I think we got Eric back now.
Yep,
Eric, are you with us?
You with us?
Is it just a straight nuisance when your computer just decides to do a mini update? Is there any worse time? Guys, you were asking me about 5A. I do believe it's Khalil Taylor and the boys at Pine Richland are just going to be really, really hard to beat. I know they're rebuilding a little bit in spots, but there's a massive amount of talent back here. They've got one of the best pilots in the state in Strader. And it just got the recent success and how you keep playing deep in the postseason. I just think all of that matters. Even for the new guys who get a little bit of time and now they're becoming new full-time starters, which there's going to be a few of those guys for Pine Richland. Those steps really sort of just understand what it takes to kind of go through the process week to week. It's a big difference between playing 10 weeks in a season and playing 16 weeks. And Pine Richland is always playing 14, 15, 16 weeks in a season. So I think that matters a lot. And I think Schrader's the guy. He's a really good pilot for the Rams. So I expect them to be really tough to beat. But, it's similar to what we talked about with Roman and Devitt moving up to 6. Southern and Twin Valley are now up to 5A. Obviously, those two teams, hooked up in the final in the championship game last year at 4A. So it creates a different little dynamic too. But, probably the biggest question mark for us, for me, at least for 5A, was who comes out of 1. I mean, Springfield Delco, and of course, Westchester Ruston's been really good. Strathaven is going to be loaded. I think Chester's going to be a nuisance again this year. So District 1 could be one of those. It could be one of those dark horse teams that come out of there. But I think it's, to me, it just feels like Pine Richland, Imhotep, Charter, and everyone else.
Let's look at 4 real quick, and then we'll hit the break. You've got 6 of your 10 that were not ranked a season ago, including Bonner, who finished 6-5. They won the state title 2 years ago now this year. Shamokin was a generational team last year. McKeesport's got the best player in the state of Pennsylvania. I'll argue that till I'm blue in the face. Newcastle, loaded team, very young in some spots, but they've got a dynamic quarterback. JP2, not ranked last year. Montour, who Newcastle will tangle with, and maybe McKeesport will, not ranked last year. Susquehanna's got a couple of transfers. Sonny Arp and Rick Brown. Rick Brown, by the way, looks like a brick house in shoulder pads.
He is a monster.
Oh, my God. I saw the highlights from their scrimmage over the weekend, and I was like, who is that? And then remembered that he had moved over from McDevitt. West York and Jersey Shore was not ranked last year, and then North Pocono rounds out the 10. This is, in fact, the Wild Wild West.
It is absolutely the Wild West. And Bonner really, they have to start fast. I mean, this is sort of, I teetered with actually Shamokin or McKeesport at number 1. But Bonner, I need to give him the benefit of the doubt because this second half, the 5-game home stretch in their regular season may be the most brutal in the state. I mean, they're closing with Roman, Father Judge, a very much improved Cardinal O'Hara team that ran deep in playoffs last year. And then you've got to go St. Joe's Prep and LaSalle to close your regular season. So I don't know of a tougher stretch run in the state for Bonner. So this is going to be probably one of the better 5-5 teams in the state. Or maybe it's 6-4. So they surprised a couple years ago, but yes, 6-5 last year. They got beat up a little bit too much last year. So if they can survive that schedule, there's really enough talent there for this team to go back to the championship game. I think you can make the case from McKeesport. I think they have a pretty good running back back in the fold. Is that right?
Yeah, he's okay.
He's all right.
Yeah, he's pretty good. So, and an interloper like Newcastle and Montour. I mean, these guys are going to compete for a Whitfield title. I mean, they're going to be right in the mix. There's a little more question marks surrounding the 2 teams in District 3 that I have in the top 10. They play in week 1. I'll be at that game Friday night. Hannah is at West York, so we're going to find out pretty quick if the 7-8 hierarchy was accurate or not. Susquehanna Township, as you know, Torrin Evans was a 4-year starting quarterback, more than 10,000 yards, and took them to great things. Almost won a district title before Twin Valley, got to him. But there's a lot of pieces that moved on, that graduated. So they've got to find that sort of interior front. West York's probably a way more complete team at the moment. I don't know if you're familiar with Jensen Ferber, their quarterback, but he's a tremendous athlete, and they've got really good defense at West York. I think it's going to be a struggle for a lot of teams. This is probably going to be West York's probably their biggest test of the 10 weeks. Comes right away with Hannah coming to town on Friday. So we'll see. But beyond that, it's a tough sled now that you've got your Twin Valley has moved up, and of course your Wyomissing has pushed down to 3A.
Yep. Hang on for a second. We're going to get a quick break and we'll come back. Sure. We'll wrap it up. Eric Epler from PennLive.com joining us here. Stay tuned. More after this on the PIAA Radio Network.
The Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasters and the PIAA promote the highest ideals of good sportsmanship in interscholastic athletics. Always remember to respect student athletes, coaches, contest officials, and game administration to help promote a safe and positive game environment. Together, we can foster a community of good sportsmanship. For PIAA playoff and state championship tickets, head to PIAA.org.
You're listening to Across the State, This Week in High School Football on the PIAA Radio Network.
The Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasters and the PIAA promote the highest ideals of good sportsmanship in interscholastic athletics. Always remember to respect student athletes, coaches, contest officials, and game administration to help promote a safe and positive game environment. Together, we can foster a community of good sportsmanship. For PIAA playoff and state championship tickets, head to PIAA.org.
Back here and around across the state, Eric Thomas with you. We're joined by PennLive.com high school football beat writer Eric Epler, and we're talking about the 2026 preseason state rankings. Season kicks off Friday, and a lot of good showcases across the state, a lot of good matchups across the state as well, including what we'll have out here in Western PA at the Wolverina 2-day event, and that's going to be a pretty good one to keep an eye on if you're a fan of high school football. Let's talk. Let's go rapid fire here in 3A. Avonworth number 1, and they do bring a lot back, including Jaden Jones, who had a monster state final last year, playoff run. Northwestern Lehigh, can they get there again? Is it possible they could get there again? And oh, by the way, here's Alec Quippa back in 3A now.
Yeah, the Quips are back in it, which rearranges some things for sure. I'm high on this Notre Dame Green Pond team as well. I got them at preseason number 4. They got a great trigger man back, and obviously some really interesting parts too. They finished up 6th last year with 12-1 season. that's the team, obviously, Northwest Lehigh they run into. So, but yeah, Avonworth, I mean, you mentioned Jones. We talked, Brad Hines is another unbelievable player. Velasaris is back to running back. I think Bryce Metz is back for that championship squad. So, yeah, I think it was an easy call to put them at 1. Northwestern Lehigh, maybe, they were in that 2 through 4 kind of category. But I don't think you could have dropped the Quips any further. And then you've got to mix in why I'm missing just because of the pedigree. Historically, they're always in it. They're going to be amongst the favorites. They are the favorite to win District 3. There's no doubt about that. And then, you've got some teams there, 6 through 10, that are interesting, have interesting parts. But again, some of these teams have been a little unlucky. Scranton Preps, is loaded, but they've got to find their way over that hump, and Hickory's going to always sort of a dangerous 2 team. They've been in the semifinals a couple of times recently, so you got to watch out for them. And Trinity's interesting in our neck. Trinity's sort of there because they're kind of the number 2 in District 3. Brandon Harris is a tremendous 2-way player, running back and linebacker, and they've got some interesting other parts. I think along the line of scrimmages where they want to sort of beef up a little bit and kind of solidify that in the first couple of weeks. But they've got time. They're going to make the playoffs regardless if the first couple of weeks are, clunky or otherwise. So they've got time to maneuver and sort of gain that momentum. So, yeah, there's some interesting teams in here. I mean, great. If you look down, top to bottom, there's great programs. And I think that, there was buzz on Hopewell, for the first time in a long time, I guess. Mm-hmm. The guys from Western PA spoke very highly of Hopewell and as a team to sort of, keep a close watch on. And I when we went down to it and put all the notes together, I felt like they deserved a late top 10 spot to open up. I mean, 7-5 wasn't bad, and they were one of those teams that weren't, exactly lucky, and they had a tough schedule. And so I think they could certainly sort of be in the mix, but beyond the Quips and obviously beyond Avonworth.
In 2A, 3 teams, I'll just give them to you right now. Southern Columbia is number 1, and I think they're probably going to stay there for most of the year and probably at least get back to Cumberland Valley to defend their title. They're loaded again. We just saw them in the baseball finals. A lot of those guys that played football, they're going to come back to the football team this year, and they're pretty loaded again. Farrell is interesting. Farrell lost to them last year in the state final. And then Westinghouse is 2A again, and that Westinghouse team, I'm talking to those guys tomorrow for a feature. They are hell-bent on getting that City League title back, and that team is – I talked to a couple of their players at one of our media days out here a few weeks ago, and they are as hungry and determined as I've seen a Westinghouse team in a long time.
Yeah, the buzz around Westinghouse was, obviously being up from 1A was just sort of like kind of wait and see, But whenever I sort of hear that, I always kind of put a red dot on them because that means everyone's thinking about them, And honestly, with the 2 Whippeal, what I would consider the 2 Whippeal favorites in Canada and St. LaSalle, which I think are, almost dead in a dead heat. Thinking about the District 8 squad in Westinghouse is not too far-fetched. So I think they deserve the top 10 spot. I know there's some other Whippeal squads that are very interesting and have some, I would say, key parts back. I think most of the guys, when you talk about Mohawk or you talk about South Allegheny, I think there's still some challenges there for those guys. But, all in all, I mean, it's going to be a pretty good season in Whippeal. I think it's going to be pretty competitive. And then the rest is kind of a crapshoot, really, beyond Southern Columbia. I think Southern Columbia, you hit the nail on the head. I think most learned our lesson that I think one year I think I had them at 3 or 4, and they wound up in the championship game.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
You sort of learn your lesson, right? the train keeps moving at a unparalleled pace. So yeah, they deserve it. They've got some nice moving parts there.
Speaking of train, number 1 in single A is Clareton. They rolled through the playoffs last year. They might have, if Kamon Spell's the best player in the state, Brandon Murphy might be number 2. I am so high on that kid and think he is just an absolutely special talent. Guilfoyle 2, they matched up last year in the final. Steel High is down to single A again. Williams Valley is down to single A again. And then a couple of unranked teams from a season ago, Washington, Wilmington, and Brockway are all smattered through your top 10. Fort Cherry's in there, and Belmont Charter made some waves in the playoffs last year, and then they ran into Guilfoyle, and they probably have to grow up a little bit, but it was good to see them at a District 12 go 11-2 last year.
Yeah, a couple of quick things. Claret and Little are just on my reports, and I just have equals loaded. That's it. Boom. And then Guilfoyle is going to be right there. There's a lot returning for Bishop Guilfoyle, and Wheeler just keeps moving him out. His son's going to play the quarterback position, so he's going to be well coached and well versed in what to do in position. I think Williams Valley and Washington lead that second sort of set of contenders. Steel High now back in 1A. They've done pretty good in this classification, so I wouldn't count them out. They are obviously going to win a District 3 title unless, they run out of Smith sausage and steal it, and then the whole borough shuts down. I don't know. But they're going to run away with our District 1A. So Belmont Charter, you mentioned, is interesting though. 11-2 last season. Now it's not going to look that pretty, I don't think, because they've sort of chosen to play a public schedule. So Imhotep Charter is on this slate. Newman Goretti is early in the season. They're going to play Lincoln. They're going to play GW. So we mentioned the 5-5 squad that Roman might be. This might be the best 5-5 squad, or at least the most dangerous when it comes to the postseason. So if this team gets to 6-4, 7-3, and stays healthy, then they're going to have a nice deep run again. Will they be able to get over the hump though, Eric? I don't know, but there's certainly an interesting pick, and it's a squad to watch.
Epi, we really appreciate taking some time here in the first episode. I couldn't think of anybody better to have on than a guy that I've known as long as I've known you. You do an excellent job. You and Ramir and Dan and Austin and all those guys at Penn Live have a great season. I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it anytime.
That's Eric Epler from PennLive.com and the Harrisburg Patriot News, giving you a look at the preseason. Good rundown there by Ep, of course, as anybody can do. He is maintain the standard of excellence at PennLive.com, inherited from Andy Shea and Rod Frisco and all the guys before him that have all done and laid the groundwork for what the Patriot News still does for high school sports coverage. They do a great job now on Penn Live, mostly the coverage on Penn Live, and a good crop of guys there. Austin Herzig is a great director of all that. They're blowing up right now, so that's. You want to make sure you get on there to read some state coverage.
What was the common denominator? We started with talking about the huge line from Pittsburgh Central Catholic.
Yep.
8 of the 10 he has for Class 1A are all notorious for year after year having the dominant lines in Class 1A. It's all about the trenches, folks. That's where it starts. The legs feed the wolf.
I was asked earlier this week what I think the deepest classes in the state are, and I actually said I think 1A is very deep. I said 6 is deeper this year. It's pretty good, but I think the pockets of the state are kind of what make that deep. Like 6A is not deep in the western part of the state in Pittsburgh. It's deep in the eastern part when you have those 5 schools that are there. You've got one in the middle of the state in State College, who's usually a contender, but they always run into the Whippeal team. And then like District 11 still has a couple of good teams. District 3 still has a couple. You heard Ep talk about those. And then you come out here. I think the depth in this state really is at 5, 4, 3. I mean, maybe 2, but 5, 4, 3, and 1 for sure. I think are as good as they've been, and 6 is as good as it's going to be.
Maybe ever.
Since they've gone to 6 classes, I think. Yeah, this should be a fun year.
Yeah, I can't wait because while we think we know who's going to make it in some of those, no, we really don't. Especially that 6A with how deep it is, and the teams moving up in 6A and the teams moving up from 3A to 4, 4A to 5A. I mean, it just 4A becomes wide open. That's the one I'm going to be most intrigued is who comes out of 4A.
Wild card in 6A. Did not ask him about this, but the wild card in 6A, I think is St. Joe's Prep. 5-5 last year. You heard us talk to Rick Preet about that in our first segment. They kind of had a down year last year by their standards. And they are on the comeback, so they're looking up at 2 other teams now.
Hey, preseason ranked number 3. I mean, take the Southern Columbia route. They're ranked.
Exactly. Yeah, don't put them at number 3. That's going to do it for week 1 here on Across the State. We hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next week. We'll have some information. We'll throw it out there on social media about our guests next week. We don't quite have them official yet, but we'll have another coach on with us and another media member on with us next week, and then all the way up to the state championships. We hope you enjoy week 1 of the high school football season. You've been listening to the PIAA Radio Network.